Hey everyone, it's Dylan with CT Aquatics, and today we're going to be plumbing up our new Frag system. In today's video, you'll get to see me add the overflow box to the tank that we drilled in the previous video, put it on the stand, and then plumb up the drains and the return. Hope you enjoy. And remember, if you enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications to join us on our journey through the sea.
For this video, I'm going to be doing a voiceover instead of talking through it. Because there's a lot of footage for the actual plumbing. There was over an hour of footage, so I'm time-lapsing it, and I didn't talk through it, so we're going to do it this way. I started by adding my overflow box into the holes that we drilled. I used the large Prodigy overflow box from eShops because they have a very low profile surface inside the tank, so they take up almost no space inside, and then all the plumbing can go outside of the tank. And then I am putting a 3/4 inch bulkhead through the last small hole for the return. At this point now, I'm just using some PVC glue and clear PVC primer to do all of the fittings. I like to make sure to measure twice and cut once when I'm gluing all of my fittings for the pipes. So as you can see here, I am using Schedule 80 gray fittings with colored pipe. I did this to match our logo. As you can see it on the back wall, we've got red, orange, yellow, there's pink in it as well, and then blue. So for the tanks, I chose yellow, orange, and red pipe for the drains, and blue for the return. At this point now, I'm just trying to get the tank onto the stand. I had to get some 2x4s to brace the stand against the other ones because it started to move a little bit. But the tank went up pretty easily, and then it just took me a minute to get it adjusted onto the foam pad and into place. At this point, I added the return nozzle, which is a random flow generator. These work really good, and you can see probably in the tanks behind me that the flow is pretty random. So now I'm back to the PVC glue and primer, and I am gluing up the rest of the return line. So again, I'm using that 3/4 inch blue pipe. So this is what my return pump is going to attach to, and this is what's going to feed water into the tank. On my return lines, I like to put a ball valve so that I could adjust the flow or potentially turn it off. And I also like to put a flow valve so that when the water gets turned off, nothing's going to go from the tank through the return line back into the sump. That could potentially cause flooding. So here is the CPEX ball valve that I'm using. Again, I used all Schedule 80 fittings and then colored pipe because I think it looks the nicest for a project like this. And there's the check valve. So again, this will prevent the flow going back from the tank into the sump through the return line. The flow can only go one way when the return pump is on. At this point, we're just putting the last bit of pipe on, and then the last elbow, and then we'll be able to mount it under the stand. So there's the pipe clamps that I'm screwing to the bottom of the stand, and you can see probably that I have the two other return lines already in place, and the two other tanks are already completely plumbed for the drains. So this is just the last tank that I'm doing now. And there's that third return line in place. And now I'm going to cut the vinyl tubing to attach the return pump. And then I had to put a hose clamp on to make sure that the tube doesn't come off. And now I'm measuring for the last bit of blue return line. The elbow on both ends where the return line is are both able to spin because I have the bulkhead that's not completely tightened down on the tank, and I have the check valve under the stand, so I can tighten those down like I'm doing now with the pliers once the glue has set. And now I'm going to start plumbing up the drains. So for my main drain, I'm using the yellow plumbing. For the secondary drain, I'm going to use the orange. And for the emergency drain, I'm going to use the red. For my main drain, I put a gate valve so that I can control the flow. And then I put a 45-degree angle so that it will slant down into the sump. For the secondary drain, we're going to follow pretty much the same steps, except it's going to be 1.5 inches shorter in length, and I'm using a ball valve because this one doesn't need to have as precision flow. And again, we just put a 45-degree elbow so that the water can kind of slant down and flow smoothly into the sump. Then for the emergency drain, we just use red pipe and we don't need any valves. Again, this is going to be 1.5 inches longer than the orange secondary drain. We want these to be staggered. Now I'm just adding some glue to the bulkheads so that I can add the drain lines in. I started with the orange. That's the secondary drain in the middle. Then I did the main drain. And then finally after that, I did the emergency drain. And now I go to finish the emergency line to the sump. So at this point, right after I finish the emergency line, I did make a little mistake on the length of the secondary and main drain lines, but luckily the pipes were too long so I could just cut the fitting off that I had glued on. But unfortunately, because of that mistake, I was short a couple of fittings, so I wasn't actually able to finish 100% of the plumbing for this video, which you'll see in a minute. So now we're getting the next part of the secondary drain ready. And I ended up making this 1.5 inches too long, and then the main drain ended up being technically 3 inches too long. So you'll see I'm adding the second fitting, the second 45-degree elbow to each of these, and both of the pipes are the same length. So once I put them in, all the pipes end up touching, which technically wasn't a big deal, but just for the look of this, it wasn't correct. The other side was already done in a different way. So I wanted to make it correct, and so I ended up cutting these fittings off. So you'll see, without the pipe in place, those are very close together. And then this is after I fixed part of it. You can see that there's a missing fitting on the main drain. And here is the tank finally running. And it's just running through the emergency drain to start, Again, I ran out of a couple of fittings, so it's just temporarily rigged right now. But here's all the tanks, and the system is finally ready.
So there you go. You've gotten to see us plumb up the new Frag system. Hope you enjoyed what you saw. Thanks for watching.